The world needs people that go out and suffer and drive and do these things. It's called life because it's a struggle. We've lost a generation. We have to be harder on our children. It's okay to tell them no. Just be passionate about whatever you're doing and you will be successful.
In the LA studios of the Get Bizee podcast with Scott Elrod, CEO of Auto Concierge, here just down the road a little bit. You are so many different things. And, you're a pilot, you're a motorcycle rider, car enthusiast, a well-known actor, as
my mom thinks so.
Yeah. I didn't know that about you until last night. I was on, you pop up on the Hallmark channel and I'm like, holy shit. I didn't know. I thought he was like the main car guy.
Yeah.
You're from Colorado. You're in LA now.
Yeah.
You have laid the runways at Denver International Airport. You've been an air traffic controller. Mm-hmm. You are a CEO, an entrepreneur. You're artistic, but you're very businessy. So let's talk a little bit to start about your journey because it's funky.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's my journey, I suppose. I started out in Colorado and the runways, that was a great job. Paid great. I mean, we were working like weekends.
So what is that? Were you actually out digging?
Yeah, so I worked for a concrete company that was based in Franktown, and we were tasked with the runways are so wide, so the equipment that lays the concrete, it can only lay so wide of a path, right? And I think the runways are maybe 200 feet, maybe a little bit more. And so you would lay these 18-inch thick slabs of concrete, and then you would have to lay another slab, right, until you got to 200 feet wide. Well, when you lay a slab of concrete, on either side, you would get these voids, and voids are not good. So this is pockets of air and stuff like that. So what happens is when you lay the next slab next to it, if you have this pocket of air in there with the temperature change, hot to cold, you get condensation, and then water and concrete creates cracks. So then we were tasked with going along the edges and filling those voids. And then they would lay the next one, and we would do it at night. So it was great. And we were working 7 days a week. So, I mean, as an 18-year-old, I was making $70 an hour.
Okay. So you have to answer this mystery. It's one of the great Colorado mysteries. Is Denver International Airport actually built upon a Native American burial ground? There's all kinds of mysteries.
Yeah. I don't know.
No?
I mean, I don't know the history behind it, and that, at some point, I think it's all native.
Yeah, I guess so.
The whole United States.
Yeah, I guess when you break it
right?
down.
I mean, we just sort of showed up.
So you worked, you were actually building the runways, and then you were an air traffic controller.
Yeah.
So apparently you're an aviation nerd.
Yeah.
And then
Dad.
you launched a marketing company.
Yeah, E&L Promotions.
And then you became an actor. Okay, so all of these things, talk us through this, right? All right, so you make the runways, and then you decide you will seek higher fortunes, calling planes into land. And then when I read your background, it's sort of like the curiosity of you is what kind of drives you. You move from two disparate things, right? So talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, look, the runway stuff, that was just a great summer job between, high school, and it paid great. So I've always been driven by I want nice things. And I grew up in a military family, and my dad was vice wing commander out of Buckley Air Force Base. And prior to that, he was in the Air Force. And so, we had great things, but we never flew first class. Not that that's important. I'm not saying that that's, we still, did great, amazing things. But I always wanted nice stuff, and nice stuff is expensive. And my dad and mom weren't going to pay for nice stuff unless, it was for them or it made sense. So yeah, it was just, labor. That was just sort of a transition during high school between like waiting tables, and I would leave the airport and then I would go wait tables at Mimi's Cafe in the morning, and that was great because you'd get tips, $150 a shift or something like that. And so, but then, high school was over. I've got two dads, and they're both involved in the military. One was Top Gun, test pilot for Northrop, and then my stepdad was Air Force and flew out of Buckley. And so, like, I've been around two very influential people my entire life that flew airplanes. So I was like, okay, I want to go fly airplanes. And I want to do that for the military. And the closest thing to being a pilot is being an air traffic controller.
Yeah.
Because you have to learn all the rules and regulations, and you're also talking with the pilots. So you're you're building a relationship with them. You're clearing them to land on your runway. So I went in, did 6 years as an air traffic controller, and that was great, but I'm just not military material.
No, I don't think you are.
Like, you don't get to tell me what to do just because you enlisted in the military 2 days before I did. But that's how the military looks at it. It's all about tenure. And I looked at it from a standpoint of, well, you just ran out of options 2 days before I did. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're smarter.
Right. And also military, there's a lot we can learn from military and people who are good at it. That it's rules, right? It's rules, it's bureaucracy. And there is that, you don't really get to choose your path, right? And
yeah, you're sort of along for the ride. And I totally respect it.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do what we do right now if we didn't have the military. Yep. So I'm not disrespecting it in any way. It's amazing that we live in this country and we have the people that serve and do the things that they do. And so, yeah, hats off to, our men and women in blue and whatnot. So did that. I got out after 6 years, and I got into high tech, and I started selling circuits for a couple of different companies. But prior to that, I had a mortgage or a marketing company with a buddy I met when I moved to Colorado in sixth grade. We became best friends. And it was E&L Promotions and Elrod and Lewis. It was pretty funny. So Zach and I, we had clients like the Weather Channel and Smirnoff Vodka, and that was fun, during college and whatnot. And then we ended up, going off and doing our own thing. And, I did the military, and then I got into high tech and started a mortgage business. And that was great up until about 2000, when the whole roof kind of fell down, later on 2007-ish, but it was a good run, and the technology was great. And then, I moved out to LA. It was 20 years ago yesterday, believe it or not, to pursue acting. And that was a lot of fun. Learned a lot, met a lot of people, met the individual who helped me get Auto Concierge started. Did a charity event and raised some money for a battered women's and children's shelter out of Houston. And in that process, I met an individual that was interested about this idea of Auto Concierge, and he said to me one day, he has he has two nicknames for me. One is Pretty Boy, and the other is Baggage Boy. And the Baggage Boy comes from, we were walking out of the Sutton Hotel in Vancouver. They came up on set. That was part of the charity package thing that they won. Is I did a behind the scenes tour for he and his best friend and wife. So they came up, and I arranged a tour of Capilano Suspension Bridge and Grouse Mountain. And so we had a limo outside, and I was holding the door for his wife, and the limo guy was outside waiting for us. And I was carrying his wife's bags, and I opened the door for her as she was walking out. And the limo driver looked at me and he's like, "Yeah, just put the bags in the back." Like, I worked for the hotel, which, it's okay, fine. I have no problem being uh, a baggage, whatever. But so then they got in the car and he goes to shut the door and I'm like, yeah, I'm going too. And he, at that point, you saw his face kind of go white
all
because
the
I was
color
actually the
drained
one
out.
that hired him to take us around. And so at that point, I've been tagged baggage boy. But he said to me, when are we going to get this car business going? And so I had a couple of things going on and he's like, well, send me your business plan and we'll do it. And
so at that
I
point, did you already have a business plan?
I did.
Okay. So
Yeah.
let's start with this. What exactly is Auto Concierge? Because I got to tour it yesterday and there's the top secret car that nobody can take a picture of. And there's, all the Porsches from movies, the crazy gangster car. Like, explain to listeners what this is, because you actually brought it to life. It is a wildly successful business. So, but what is it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I thank you for that. I don't know that I necessarily brought it. There's definitely been some people before I hit the scene that were doing just storage. And I call what we do asset management. And that is, for me, Auto Concierge in a nutshell is we remove the resistance associated with the passion. That's it. And, there's a handful of players out there that have really jumped into this whole storage situation, but that's not what we do. We're taking care of these cars just as if, an estate manager would manage somebody's homes.
What is the resistance part of that you were just talking about?
Oh my gosh. I mean, first and foremost, it's time.
Yeah.
Right. So we all have 24 hours a day. I don't care if you make $1 billion a year or you make $100,000 a year. We all put our pants on one leg at a time and we all have 24 hours in the day. So, these cars, they need to be coddled. They need to
These
be
are not
looked
like
after.
Well,
some of them are.
I didn't see any normal ones, but
normal's relative, right? So like we've got one client that has probably 25 cars with us, and his least expensive car is an Alpha that he learned to drive a stick on with his dad.
Yeah.
His dad taught
So
him
it's
how to
meaningful.
drive. So yes, it's normal in the stance that, it's not a $350,000 or a $10 million Ferrari. I mean, it's a normal car. I mean, it's still pretty expensive for a 1970s Alpha. But then we have like the $10, $15 million cars and everything in between. But they all require to be cared for.
Yeah.
And what I have found and what I, was out to do when I started this, I came up with the idea in 2008. I was on a TV show called Men in Trees, and I really thought that I hit my stride in the acting world. But then we had the writer's strike and the potential actor's strike. And so at that point, I'd been on the show for 3 seasons. And it was just like, okay, you don't control your own destiny.
Yeah.
Like at this point, I got to come up with another idea that gets me to the finish line. And so I've always liked recurring subscription-based business models.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of success with that, having worked in telecom. And that's kind of what the telecom, I mean, your cable bill, your Verizon cell phone, like it's recurring subscription based, right? So like you sign up for it and you just get it, like Spectrum TV, right? Like, okay, HBO, it's like, okay, I don't watch it or not, but it's $9 a month. And after 10 years, you just gave HBO, right? $1,300 and you probably watched 2 HBO shows or something. So recurring subscription based. So I've always had a passion for cars, came up with the idea, but I know I went on a tangent there.
No. It's good.
To me, it's just, what is Auto Concierge? It's everything and anything automotive. I mean, it's literally like cars are kind of like, I almost want to say like McDonald's, right? McDonald's is a real estate holding company. And then on the side, they sell French fries, right? Okay, so I'm a service-based company. And then on the side, we take care of cars.
Right.
Right? So that's kind of like, and fortunate enough that LA has got such a huge car culture, and real estate is also limited here. So I got lucky in that it just worked. like this wouldn't work in, you know, Wichita, Kansas.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a handful of collectors in Wichita, Kansas. So nothing, but they're not going to pay my rate because
Right.
they've got a 5,000 square foot garage,
Right.
and they don't need me. But I mean, maybe they do because they've got 24 hours in the day and they're busy making, their business grow and flourish, and they want to focus on time with their family when they want to enjoy their cars with their wives or significant others or children. Then they call me up and it shows up and it's clean, detailed, tire pressure set, and mechanically sound. So for me, Auto Concierge is it's literally allowing the guys that have this passion for these cars to really enjoy them.
Yeah.
And just make it easy for them, because there's nobody out there that's really doing it. I mean, there's a handful of players that have come into the market since I started this, but it got real in 2011 when we got our first building. And that's when that's when he said, send me your business plan, and I sent it to him, and then pen to paper, and we were off to the races.
So as an entrepreneur, do you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I think by definition, that's,
Yeah. I think so too. I think you are the essence of entrepreneurship. But what drives you, right? Like it would be so easy some days to just walk away from all of the responsibility. Like, what is that thing? Is it passion? We were talking a little bit about the whatever that magic is that you have that drives you. What is that? Can you explain it?
I think deep down, I am really a people pleaser, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so thank God I'm in a service-based industry because like it would be all for nothing if that weren't the case. But I don't know. What drives me? I mean, obviously I want to be the best at whatever I do. So like if someone wants to measure me against themselves, or whatever, like, I want to create freedom and a lifestyle for myself and my family. I think that definitely is like a byproduct of this drive thing. I don't know that you can have one word that defines it, but like, we all want to be our best at whatever it is. If we're a paper mache basket weaver or something, like we just want to be extraordinary at that. And like, that's kind of, I just always have been very detail oriented, driven, like just be the best at whatever you do. And I think as a byproduct, you create a lifestyle and a freedom, and, maybe you create wealth, whatever that is, right? I mean, wealth has many different levels. To some people, having food on the table is wealth and freedom. And then others need yachts and airplanes, so I'm somewhere in between.
On that, it's not an easy path that you have chosen as an entrepreneur, business owner. You pay a lot of insurance to have these cars. Like, talk about the challenges that you've had with Auto Concierge, and even like finding people, the right people to work for you. We talked about that yesterday lightly. Talk about those challenges and how you dust it off and keep going every single day.
I think it's probably a moving target, right? So like in the beginning, your challenges in the beginning are different than your challenges.
Yeah.
Like now that we've been doing this for almost 15 years or basically. But like when I first started out, I couldn't, there was nobody that would allow me to sign a lease on a commercial property because I didn't have any experience and I didn't have any history of commercial leases. And like I owned a home and stuff, but that's totally different. So that was a big challenge. Money, getting this going, it's very capital intensive, right? Like you got to rent a building, you got to make the building look beautiful, or at least for what I wanted to do, it needed to look nice. Like you need to be able to eat off the floor.
Right.
So like, in the beginning, it was that, and finances were obviously, and now I've got people that are asking me like, hey, I want to invest and be a part of your company. And I'm like, where were you back in 2008? So anyway, and then, and then it evolves to, it evolves into like for me right now in this state, we've got almost 30 employees, 5 different locations in 2 different states. The hardest thing right now, I think, is really the people side of it.
Yeah. When you say people, like finding the right people to work.
Yeah, finding people that you can trust that share the same mentality and demeanor that it actually doesn't have to be what I have, but it needs to be to the level of which my clients are expecting, right? So before it was just me running around, my brother and I, like, and I don't have to question my brother, right? Like we're from the same, like he's good. He's not going to, I remember I had an assistant one time and he was dropping a Ferrari off at a client's house and literally like he was doing selfies at the stoplight, posting up on Instagram, like driving a Ferrari. And I'm like, yeah, he didn't.
How do you manage that?
Well,
I mean,
I just, okay, first of all, why would you want to do that in the first place? It's not yours. And so anyway, needless to say, he didn't last. And we put some new verbiage in the employee handbook.
Yeah. So do you have a policy on like no pictures?
Right. Yeah. There's no photos.
I mean, it's just common sense, but people are sometimes.
Well, common is not common anymore.
Right.
So unfortunately that's the case. But yeah, I would say it's really, this business is based on trust. And if that wavers, your client's gone. And it's not like they have options. At least they could go to another company that provides storage, but it's still, affecting the bottom line, and they're not going to get the service that they would get from me. But it's just tough. It's hard finding good people.
Yeah.
And we're in such it's strange. I mean, I just turned 49 and, we've lost a generation. Yeah. Like we really have. Like people don't want to, I don't know. I'm just finding it. And it's sad because like I've got a 7-year-old son and then I have twin 19-year-old boys that I've pretty much, I'm not legally adopted as but they're mine as far as I'm concerned. And they've been in my life for the last 6-7 years. But like, what's going to happen? Like the world needs people that go out and like suffer and drive and do these things. Like if you all want to sue each other, you're not going to have anything left.
Right.
Like you're just screwing yourself.
Right.
Right. Like in 50 years, I'm sorry, but you're fucked.
Right.
Like,
right. So sorry. No. We're raw, unfiltered here, but okay. So talk to me about that, like that problem, right? Like that thing where if we're all suing, like what makes you say that? Is it the upcoming generations?
I think I've seen so much where people are just, they're not willing to like, you just got to go through it.
Yeah.
It's called life because it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Like it's not all daisies and,
unicorns.
Yeah. You gotta like, if you don't like your job, then quit, go somewhere else.
Right. Right. Yeah. I hear that from so many entrepreneurs, like not startup so much, but like you're 15, 20 years old. And it's just like, they cannot find people who will stay the long term or who want to learn a business or a trade. It's just sort of very transactional right now. And I think it's just sort of like a change, a culture change,
I mean, not to hit like I personally, and somebody might, there'll be people out there that won't agree with me on this, but I love what Elon did with regards to, don't show up, you're fired.
Yeah.
Come to work, people.
Yeah.
It's time to come to work.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, there's a front door.
Yeah. So how did you, like during the pandemic, you cannot do your business remotely. How did you guys sort of patch that together?
Well, call it, wasn't daycare Was it daycare?
Yeah, it was like
it was a
one of those services.
What did they call it? They called it a
Essential
essential
service.
service.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this is daycare for cars, so
So you were able to use the
slipped right.
daycare clause.
No, I COVID was actually it was really good for us. We grew quite a bit. People were hunkering down, and there was a time where like everything had gone on fire sale. Like everybody thought the world was ending.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember it was like March 17th or something like that. And then the 24th and everything. And, we've heard it time and time again, the rich get richer.
Yeah.
And people with cash had the foresight and they bought more cars and they got these cars at a discount.
Right.
And so they needed more space, and by they I mean our clients. And yeah, we actually grew quite a bit. But yeah, we at that time, 21, God, we had two facilities. We had two facilities and probably 6 or 7 employees.
Yeah.
And the clients weren't really using their cars. So it's not like we had to like turn them and burn them and wash them and all that stuff. I mean, I still went into the office, and then had a lot of, people just keep working from home and accounting type, our office manager worked from home. But yeah, we were fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, cars kept showing up.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, people were buying
Yeah,
because they were on fire sale.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
So it worked out well for us. And I know a couple of, people in the business that started their business right around then.
Right.
And they're doing well. So hats off to those guys.
Going back to your statement about Elon Musk, and there's a lot of controversy surrounding him, and all of his bizarreness and whatever, inflammatory. But like, what is I think it's such a good point. Like your advice to people who want to be entrepreneurs or start their own thing. I mean, do you feel like your experience is very much roll up your sleeves and go build a runway, right? Like, how do you inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs if they don't want to show up for work, right? Like, how do you, what's your advice?
Well, I would say, first of all, if you don't want to show up for work, they're not an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we just get it done. And I think it just goes back to just be passionate about whatever you're doing and you will be successful.
Yeah.
In one way, shape, or form or the other, right? Like just be passionate. And look, whether you agree with Elon or not, or, or other people out there who are very, they did it.
Yeah.
They did it.
Yeah.
And hats off to them. You might not agree with their political stuff. I mean, I don't want to get into like a whole political situation, but they did it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to learn from that.
Yeah.
Like they didn't take no for. Do you know how many times I'm told no? Like one of my employees was like, he was getting some pushback. I'm like, and he was telling me no, and I'm like, no disrespect, but I'm not going to accept that. And if I accepted no, you wouldn't have a job right now with me.
Yeah. Like,
don't accept no. And
what does that mean? Like, how do you not accept no? Right? Like, how do you overcome?
I mean,
those?
Okay, so like in the most basic sense, how many times have we been on the phone with like customer support?
A lot.
Okay, and that person's like, no, I can't do it.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, well, do me a favor. Appreciate your time, but can you connect me with your supervisor? And then they click over and you talk to their supervisor.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, not always, but
not always.
but in the case
Ideally.
that
Mm-hmm.
So boom, you get connected to the supervisor, and then all of a sudden the supervisor is able to solve your problem. Okay, so that person had to say no because unfortunately the training program within that organization only taught that person how to deal with that situation.
Yeah, that one barrier.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't capable of looking at it from, a 3-dimensional type situation or whatever.
Right.
So then you're like, all right, let me talk to somebody. So my point is like, push back. right? I mean, sometimes you have to accept the no, but in accepting the no, you go and you realize how to get around the no.
Right.
And if that's creating a whole new product, you just denied the no and
Yeah.
you created it. Now,
Yeah.
maybe to that person's face, it was a no. But you still are like, okay, well, I'm not accepting this as a no. And then, I mean, that's like Elon does not accept no.
Right. And great entrepreneurs don't accept no, right? They learn from the no's. They learn from the
Sure.
rejection, right? Because when you have that fire in your belly, like, Richard Branson or, Mark Cuban or whomever, right? There's millions like when you have the ability to just go on and pivot, because you believe, right? Like that vision where you can see it, you can smell it, you can taste it, it drives people. And, the younger generation of startups, I'll use Silicon Valley because it's just an ecosystem everybody understands. Like a lot of the startups are not necessarily in it for passion, right? They're in it for the exit, right? They get in it, they want to flip it, they want to, so that's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's different than what you've done. You have chased,
Yeah.
you have denied, the odds. So talk about that.
I mean, so I would, it's hard to comment because I mean, sure, there's some people out there that are like, okay, hey, we see a product and then they go flip it and they make a couple $100 million, right?
Yeah.
Hats off to them.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't passionate about the software that they just created, but they're passionate about the game.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And so, they're passionate about it and it works. Like, I mean, there's all different ways to, sort of label this game of, being an entrepreneur. Not really a game, but there's ways of, there's different ways to do it. I mean, I'm just passionate about, what like I said before, it's just like, I want to be the best at what I do and create this lifestyle for me. So as a result, we've got our clients who I'm super grateful for, and we've grown the business and we're going to continue to grow it. And that's that.
It's such an amazing American phenomenon, entrepreneurship, right? Like if you go around the world, entrepreneurship is a very new concept, right? Like in Croatia, right? If you say you're an entrepreneur, they hear, the elders hear, oh, he's in the mafia, right? Like it's totally different. And even in this country, the story arc of entrepreneurship is very colorful. In 1985, so I was the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur magazine. So I had access to all the back issues and what we called the morgue, morbidly. And that issue, the cover of Entrepreneur in 1985 or 1989, this is how entrepreneurship was viewed in this country. Are you ready for this? Yeah. Cover story. It's a woman in a giant U.S. mail
like a
cart.
bin.
Yeah, like a mail cart. And the headline was, how to start a mail order bride business, right? Like that was real. Like people were out starting businesses around, and it has come so far. Like it is such a part of our culture to be entrepreneurial. And I think that we are so lucky to be in a country that
it does support
champions, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of other things, but if you tried to launch a business in, any other country, it's going to be very different. And so, to get to sit down with you and hear your story, because it really is the essence of entrepreneurship, right? Like it's hard, you did a bunch of stuff, but you are passionate and you are driven. And, you're inspiring, and I think a role model for a lot of people. So, you were talking earlier about, like if you do what you love, everything else will come, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is the most important piece of information, not just for business and for life, right?
Right.
Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, it works in your friendships and your relationships, and, absolutely. Like, just be true to yourself. And I think honest, you can't chase dishonesty. right?
You can try.
Yeah, but it's like it's constantly moving.
Right.
Right? Whereas honesty is honest. Like,
Yeah,
this is
you
it.
just see
You know,
it.
it's there. There's
Yeah,
there's a
the end
there's a
point.
D mark of like, okay, this
Yeah.
is it. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, that cover probably wouldn't have sold too many.
No, I
issues
think that might have
there.
landed in the
That was
I don't
40
know,
years ago.
somebody's office. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but really
How to
not
start
that
a mail
long.
order bride.
Yeah,
Uh,
the best car ever made.
the best car ever made. Oh. I mean, let's say, how about the best manufacturer?
Okay.
Okay, can we go
Best,
with that?
yeah, here we go. Best manufacturer of cars.
Honda.
Surprising. Best album of all time.
Oh man. Music. I love it, but
What do you listen to get inspired?
I listen to everything. I was gonna just Hotel California. I like the Eagles, whatever. But
Can't
we
go
can with
wrong,
that.
really.
Yeah.
What about the book that has impacted you the most in your life?
I'm so not a reader.
Non-business.
Okay.
Non-business.
Probably the only book I read, which was Lone Survivor.
Okay.
I'm kidding. Not the only book I read, but yeah, that was talk about a guy who, anyway, does not take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus, for your service. Yeah, that was a great book.
What are you most proud of?
Most proud of. It's cool to be a dad.
Yeah.
You know, family.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're here for.
Finish the sentence for me. I do not fear.
Rejection.
Okay, the next one is very geographic, I'm learning. This
Okay.
is a very geographic question. All right, I'm going to let you answer it
Monaco.
first. No, we both agree that place is weird, right? It's like Disneyland. Yeah.
Good tax haven.
What is your favorite curse word?
Favorite curse word?
Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely the F. Yeah.
Go ahead and say it. Just
No, I mean it's good because it applies to so many
Yeah.
different things. It could be excitement, it could be anger, it could be like, holy shit, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, what I've learned. All right, Colorado in general
Okay.
is a shit state.
Is
right?
a shit state.
Most people prefer saying shit. California,
Okay.
the favorite curse word so far
Yeah.
is fuck.
Really?
Yeah. And that is interesting.
So like, okay, got it. So Californians like to use the word fuck.
Right.
And Colorado.
Colorado.
Shit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Huh.
It totally
Really?
non-scientific, unscientific, no research. That's just based on casual conversation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, who's
All
your
right.
hero?
Hero. Mom.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. One more question. Hold on, stay with me. I had this written out for you. The best piece of advice you've ever gotten.
Oh, wow. Persevere. Like, and that goes back to the like not taking no for an answer. Like just perseverance and then I think like it's all tied in. And my dad's would be second behind mom, but like that's that because you have to have a foundation to believe in perseverance, right?
That's
so it's
right.
like you need something first to get to this. And so like, yeah, perseverance. And but again, that's what's so cool about my parents is that they constantly believed in me and like they tested me, like go out, sink or swim. And then all of a sudden, like, holy cow, I'm swimming.
Yeah.
Okay, shit, I can swim. You just kind of figure it out. But you have to be, and like, I don't want this to come across as a negative thing, but going back to that, like we've lost a generation and I'm probably just as much like at fault. Like we have to be harder on our children. Like it's okay to like tell them no, like it's because that's going to give them that thickness in their skin. And they're going to be like, all right. Right. Like, it's going off on a tangent here for a second. One of the most amazing, I think it's important as a parent to like, you almost need to, you almost need to Jedi mind trick your children, right? And there's a way of getting them to do what you want them to do, but for them to actually self-motivate it and do it for themselves. Mandy said once to her son.
Mandy's your wife.
Yeah, well, she might as well be, but we're legally not married, but it will be soon. Earmuffs, Mandy. Is one of her boys was doing something that wasn't really becoming of a young 18-year-old man, and she said to him, she goes, just that action isn't going to get you the type of woman that you probably want to be involved or in love with. So you're going to have to step up your game. And he was literally like, and she's like, yeah, I wouldn't date you if you did that. And, I think all young boys to a certain extent want to, date somebody that resembles the qualities of their mother, right? Yeah. And so he literally he stopped doing this, and it's like she Jedi mind tricked him. And so anyway, on that note, I think it's okay as parents, we have to start being a little bit more, there needs to be more discipline at a younger age.
The whole idea, I have twins too, twin daughters, about the same age as your sons. And, they grew up on a ranch.
Awesome.
And every day was work.
Yeah.
Right? Every day they had purpose. They had to feed the horses. They have to shovel the horse shit. Now, not everyone can live on a, right? We just chose the hillbilly lifestyle for whatever reason. But I think giving kids that purpose, giving yourself purpose is the key to, so many things in life, success, inspiration, right? If you don't have purpose, you're lost.
No, you nailed it. It's definitely purpose. And maybe that's what we're missing, is the purpose part of it.
Right. And it's small things.
Because I think as a human society, that's what we thrive off of. You have to have purpose. Have to have purpose.
And it doesn't have to be like a grand calling to Bali to study Buddhism. Get up.
Hey, I got to take care of the horses, or I got to walk the dog.
Shovel the shit.
Right.
Do that, right? And it becomes an experience that is a part of who they are.
Yes.
Right. And I'm not saying my kids are perfect, but that to me was the key to making sure I didn't raise assholes.
Right.
It was the whole key. Right. And one of them is kind of an asshole, right, still. But you get my point.
No, and through that purpose, there's different experiences that will teach you, trials and tribulation. And, I'm going to fail here. But
mistakes.
You had to have purpose to go out and try that, to fail it, to overcome it.
Yep.
So, no, I love what you said on the purpose thing. Yeah, maybe we're lacking purpose.
Or maybe we're forgetting to assign purpose, right? Study, understand what that means through the actual act of doing it. But anyway, one last question for you, and it's on, your experience, your success, your crazy path and journey. How do you? What is an entrepreneur, right? That word is kind of loosey-goosey these days. But from your perspective, what is entrepreneurship? What's an entrepreneur?
Remember the big, I remember in the early 2000s, it was partnership, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody wanted to partner with your company. You're like, no, you just basically want to be a vendor and we'll pay you. And that's
right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big word. Entrepreneur, following your own path, right? Whatever that may be. I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to work for yourself to be an entrepreneur.
Totally agree. Explain that a little bit, because I totally agree, and I think it's an important point to make.
Yeah, I mean, look, businesses are built off of a community of people, right? My business doesn't exist without my guys who are making sure that these cars are detailed and cleaned. And what about my guy who handles, customer relation and the all the back office stuff? So it's we're all entrepreneurs in our own right to a certain extent. And I might be contradicting myself from earlier on, but there's just follow your own path, I think is your to me is entrepreneurship. And then everybody has their own definition of what that path means. And, you know, because I still have I still have bosses, right? My bosses would be my clients. And internally, actually, my boss is my fear of not providing what I think their expectation is or exceeding that, right? So, but sometimes your clients have higher expectations than you, and therefore you have to answer to that. So I'm still reporting to somebody, right?
Right.
I don't know if that answers the question.
It does. It does. Yeah. Thank you.
We just threw a wrench in it. All right.
Yeah. No,
So much for that word.
No, it's a funky word. And Richard Branson, again,
Yeah,
his definition is this. And I agree. The most important thing, I think, is that entrepreneurship, you don't have to be the founder of a startup to be entrepreneurial in your thinking. You know, there's entrepreneurial COOs, there's entrepreneurial. So Branson is, his definition is, entrepreneurship is the creation of something where there was nothing, right? So you're coming up with a whole new thing where nothing was before.
Sure.
But if you are entrepreneurial in your thinking, you can redefine anything,
Sure.
right? Just by innovative problem solving. So,
yeah, and it takes a village.
It takes a village.
It really does.
Yep.
You know, my dad said to me, I remember, it was like 87 or something. And we were at, there's the officers club. And on Friday nights, you know, the pilots go, and Mom and I went to meet Dad, and he introduced me to his crew chief. And he said, you know, meet Richard. And if it weren't for Richard, you wouldn't have a dad. And I'm like, oh, wow. What do you do, Richard? And he's like, well, I'm the crew chief. Like, so in military terms, he's the mechanic. So he makes sure Dad's plane is safe when Dad goes and flies it. So that was an interesting lesson, because it's like, we're all like, the janitor is just as important as the CEO.
Yeah.
And it takes a village,
Yeah.
right? So like Richard didn't get you know, he was very well respected in that, but like on the outside world, like you put a fighter pilot next to a mechanic, right? Like everybody's gonna be like, oh, let's go talk to the fighter pilot.
Right. Right.
If it weren't for the mechanic, the fighter pilot's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, it's interesting how society perceives that, right? And same with, you know, like the bookkeeper, or, you know, it's like everybody wants to talk, like, we're not interviewing janitors, but maybe we should.
Yeah.
Honestly, because you don't have a clean, no one's gonna go to McDonald's.
Right.
You know, right?
Clean.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, for whatever that's worth, but
yeah,
I like Richard's, the creation of something where there wasn't something before.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a really pretty definition, and it, like, you can break it down and whatever, but in philosophy, you know, philosophically, I think it's a pretty good description of at least your journey and what you've done.
He knows what he's doing for sure.
He does.
Yeah,
Crazy.
hats
man.
off to him.
Yeah. I'm so grateful I got to spend the morning with you. And, you know, there's so much to take from everything that you said. Again, not just about, you know, successful entrepreneurship, but about how to live your life and be true to yourself. So I thank you very much for your time.